Well, sisters and brothers, you might have noticed a theme here of shepherd and sheep. And that emerges again in our gospel today. Christ is the good shepherd. We are his sheep. Now, I must confess, growing up for many years, I couldn't stand this image. Could you guess why? Sheep are kind of dumb. At least that's the impression that we get. If we look at our own colloquial speech and the way people talk, well, when you compare somebody to a sheep, is it usually a good comparison? Right? We get this idea that sheep just are blindly following. You sheeple. You've heard that one before? Saying people are more like sheep, like lambs led to the slaughter. We've heard that one before too, right? And so it always rubbed me the wrong way that we were supposed to be like sheep. I mean, after all, isn't one of the greatest things and greatest powers and faculties of human being is that we have the capacity for reason? We're far more intelligent than the animals of the field. We're the ones who build beautiful buildings and paint paintings, and we're the ones who can travel even into the stars. So what does Jesus mean that we should be like sheep? And for years I wrestled with this until I finally realized something. I don't know anything about sheep or anything about what it is to be a shepherd. Now, I know I've shared this with you before, but I learned that the sheep are very skittish and very reluctant to follow just anybody's call. You could teach 100 people the call for the sheep, and they will pay no attention. They know the sound of the shepherd's voice. They recognize it. And 100 people could call them, and they never come. But when the shepherd speaks, they all come running. You see, they may not be the wisest of the animals, but they do know who to trust. They know the one who has cared for them before. They know the one who has saved them from dangers, the one who always leads them to greener pastures. They listen to the voice of the shepherd, and they come running when he calls. This is what Jesus is getting at. To know his voice and to come when he calls. And almost just as importantly, to know when it's not his voice. To know when there are false shepherds calling. And to be able to know the difference. You know, oftentimes you'll hear people say that faith and reason are two things that are opposed to one another. I've gotten into these debates with people many times before. And I'd like to share something that I heard from Bishop Barron recently that I just thought it was beautiful, and it's part of our Catholic tradition that faith is not opposed to reason. It is beyond reason. And reason can take us so far, but at some point, we have to take a step in faith. And I'll give you an example. So imagine you meet a new person and you strike up a conversation and you begin to know more about this person and you realize, I like this person. I like their stories, I like their personality, and you get to know them more and more. And eventually you get to a point where you're like, this person is my friend. And the more you get to know them and the more you observe how they behave, eventually it comes to a point where you know everything that you can in the moment, But now you have to make a decision. Do I trust this person? Can reason answer that question? Or imagine you've been dating for a while and you've gotten to know each other. Your values click, your personalities click, and you really enjoy your time with this person. But at some point, you've gotten all this information, but now you have to choose. Do I love this person? You see, reason can take us up to a certain point. But if we only live by it, then we can never fully live. Because the most beautiful things, the most precious things in life require taking a step forward in trust. Recognizing that there are good reasons for it. But ultimately, it does take faith. It does take stepping out into the unknown and making ourselves vulnerable. We don't always know where the shepherd is leading us, but time and time again, the shepherd has shown us that when he does lead us, he leads us to good places. He's shown us that when there are dangers and we call to him, he does come and protect us. So we might not know what is ahead of us, but we have known the shepherd, and we have taken this step to trust him. You know, I don't know if any of you ever have gotten calls like this, but have you ever received a scam call? Yeah. They seem to be getting more and more popular by the day. And I've pretty much gotten to the point where if I don't recognize the number, I don't even answer it. I figure if it's something important, they'll leave a message, right? But scammers have gotten pretty good. And sometimes you'll get little links, and it even looks like it's an actual YouTube link, or it looks like it's like a real website, right? And yet, most of us don't fall for it. And why don't we fall for it? Well, because we know the person who's supposed to be sending it, and it doesn't sound like them. I've gotten so many messages from people that I haven't talked to for years, and the way that the message reads, you're like, what? I know this isn't coming from them. Because it doesn't sound like them. It doesn't look like them. I know the person. I have established a relationship with them, and this thing that they're saying doesn't sound like him. And so Jesus wants us to always be listening to him, to be praying to him, to reading his scriptures, to studying the traditions of the church, by learning the sound of the shepherd's voice. So when some new idea comes our way and someone pretends that it's the shepherd's voice, we will know it's not him. Because I know his voice. I've heard his voice. And this does not sound like him. This is what Jesus is getting at when he says that the sheep know my voice. So sisters and brothers, there are many false shepherds in this world. So it is important that we as the flock use our reason. But it comes to a point where all of the reading and all of the studying comes to an end. We have to take a step of faith to know the one who has been with us in those difficult times, to know the one who has consoled us in our grieving and has fed us by the Spirit. We come to know his voice in this way. And others come to know it as well. If people come to know you and to trust you, if you are a trustworthy person and you have demonstrated that in your own life. When you come to them and you tell them about that good shepherd, they're far more likely to listen and to follow. And so, sisters and brothers, let us again thank God for this great shepherd. Let us always listen attentively to his voice. And when he calls, let us follow.